Welcome back to War Thunder and welcome aboard first the Kia F43-3 and then later on the German P-47. Today I want to talk about air realistic battles and to discuss if it's really dying or not. And I have, just taken some screenshots from within the game. First from Air RB in the shape of, Tank RB on the EU server and on the Russian server, and I calculated the numbers together and then later on compared them to the numbers of Air RB. And if you run the numbers again in comparison to the EU server and the Russian server, you come to the following numbers. Air RB 129 on the EU and 161 on the Russian server, whereas we have in Tank RB 135 on the EU and 141 on the Russian server. So the numbers on the servers are, at max 10 to 20% apart, and also between the modes they are more or less the same. But we have to interpret the numbers. Now another discussion is about the balancing factor, and I just had this one match in the Russian P-47 where I took this screenshot, and we have 12 players on each team and 5 on my team are the Russian premium P-47. And with the air start, with the performance of 50 cals and how it turns out with the maps, this is not fun to engage them. So here is one match in the Russian premium P-47, and just watch how I dominate the enemy team, how I fly a bit more disciplined than usual, and how I get rewarded for this. Now, why am I a fan of Air RB and why I want it to be reworked? First of all, the statement that I want to make is Air RB is far from dying. There are way too many players in the queue times, but I think you have longer queue times in the queue, so those numbers might be a bit deceiving. And the second of all, whereas Air RB is not dying, it's suffering. And Gaijin, I think, let us at least feel like they are not focusing on this. One of the reasons is that they quenched out all the money from the players that are, going for Air RB, and there is not that much more money to take. So if you look at the long-lasting problem of chat balancing and, from battle rating 6.7 to 9.0, it's a big mess, and just a handful of chats are actually of interest, and even new chats that are thrown into there, which are not really that good in Tank RB, are made obsolete by just implementing them with their performance at that given battle rating, where you just have not a very good place, or you make the chat just simply overpowered. Yak 23. So I think Air RB is still worth saving and working on and giving it a bit of love, reworking the maps, reworking the distribution of the ground units, bringing, for example, the Ruhr map back into the rotation, which was one of the best, if not the best, Air RB map for playing, on the Western Front, as Germany or Italy, and also America and, well, Britain. Now, it was very good with the distribution. You had a zone to defend, you had a zone to attack, you had ground units distributed all around the map, you had some active and some non-active AI ground units, and one that mattered for the drain of the points and one that you just could harvest for some extra RP as a ground unit. And so Air RB, as the first point of real argument here, is not just a completely different mode from Tank RB if you're fed up with Tank RB, which is a big strength of War Thunder, that it offers this possibility. The second point is also that it offers a unique, different way to spade a certain plane that you later on want to use in the other game mode. Some people have said, well, just use some of the outdated tanks in some of the outdated, chats or planes in general in Air RB to spade them in Tank RB and then go back to Air RB where then they are competitive. But the same goes for the other way around for some attackers like the 84 Sky Raider, as a prime example here, where it takes a while to spade it in tank RB, but you can do it much faster in air RB using it as a fighter, or even using the quote-unquote inferior payloads with lesser rockets and so forth to harvest some ground units and get at least something out of the plane instead of, you know, just flying around uselessly in tank RB. So we have a lot of possibilities, which is a strength of War Thunder. One of the big downsides of War Thunder is Gaijin not even using a third of the possibilities that are there. And so they put a lot of their workforce into projects that currently are not thriving that well. And then, you know, neglecting parts of the game that really need rework. Some of the AI units, look at the carriers, they need a desperate remaking. They look like 2001 graphics and not 2018, if you look at how pixely they are. And Gaijin has shown that they can, you know, rework certain vessels. And with, you know, ship pre-closed beta getting closer and closer to having bigger ships, to having also different maps, I think capital ships have their place in the game. And if not for active players, for example carriers, you always could use them as some sort of objective, AI controlled, and they need better graphic. I mean, a lot of the footage that I want to show should be the good looking one, should be, you know, a part of advertising the game to new players possibly, but I can't do this if I have 2001 graphics in a 2018 game. And you know, one of the big arguments that people always make when they compare various games, for example World of Tanks and War Thunder, they always pointed out the graphics in War Thunder is so much better. But if you look at, you know, World of Tanks 1.0, it had a really good shot in the graphics department and it looks stunning. And some of the old maps in War Thunder, tank RP maps, they need a lot of love. I know there are a lot of difficulties within War Thunder, like the actual game engine is, as far as I was told and know, around a flight simulator engine, something like this. And so it's a really good amount of work that Gaijin put into tanks to make them work, but by that time they have neglected the air RB combat that hasn't really changed in ever. Same goes for the tanks, which are also just, you know, going around the capture zones. Glad we haven't any sort of capture zones actively for the players in air RB, which is kind of refreshing if you think about it. So I think I'm not quite sure which numbers we can trust, if the matchmaker and the queues are rigged. And you know, a lot of people in my comment section say, well, I'm no longer interested in air RB, and you know, my shot at chats is like, they're so boring and they're so uncompetitive, a lot of them, and it's not really fun playing them, except a handful of them, which it takes relatively long to, you know, get your hands on in the first place, and then the big difference in terms of performance. So it's a really big mess, and it needs a lot of rework, but a lot of the rework is just changing certain numbers. For the P47, I think you need to increase the battle rating, and you need either to take away the air spawn or reduce the altitude of the air spawn. But in good old fashion of Gaijin, they will take not just one of the two options, but both of them, and then ruin the P47 again. Then drop also the effectiveness of 50 cals, less damage output, yada yada yada. And I think, you know, that Gaijin is really struggling here with the way that they approach, with the sort of balancing, quote unquote, that they do. They're doing a horrible job at times. And this is what people drives away from the game in general. It's not that one game mode is, you know, broken. It's not that just one plane is overpowered. It's a continuity that I have not seen in another game. Screwing it up like this. Yes, every game has power creep. Yes, every game needs from time to time a rework, but the consistency of Gaijin refusing to rework RRB to make it even more interesting, you know, to bring back old players, to bring new players into the game. I cannot really use RRB here as some sort of advertisement. And Tank RB alone is not really what War Thunder is and what it was. That's a message. So I couldn't even address half of the topics that are potentially there, but I hope you got a good idea. Let's have a quick look at the results. 90,000 civil lines and just over 8,000 research points without actually researching anything is, you know, a good way to make money. If you are a Tank RB guy, think about, you know, getting such an aircraft. I know I advertise here the spam, but the damage is already done. That's it for me today, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if it did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other in the skies and on the battlefields of War Thunder.